The first thing Elena Martinez felt was cold. Not the gentle cold of winter morning air, but the deep, bone-crushing cold that seemed to come from inside her very soul. Her eyes opened slowly, fighting against the bright white light that flooded. Her vision, everything felt wrong. Her body was stiff and her muscles screamed in protest as she tried to move her fingers. Elena tried to remember where she was. The last clear memory she had was saying goodbye to her daughter at the Genesis vault entrance. The year had been 2154 and Earth was dying. The sun was expanding and would soon make their planet uninhabitable. She had volunteered for the long sleep program, hoping that humanity would find a way to survive somewhere among the stars. A soft voice spoke near her ear. "Dr. Martinez, please remain calm. You are safe. The revival process is almost complete." Elena turned her head slowly toward the voice. A man in a white coat stood next to her bed, checking readings on a small device. His face looked kind but tired, as if he had been working for many hours without rest. "How long was I asleep?" Elena asked, her voice coming out as barely a whisper. The man paused and looked uncomfortable. "That is something the commander will explain to you once you are fully recovered. For now, please focus on getting your strength back." Elena tried to sit up, but her body would not cooperate. Through the transparent walls of her recovery chamber, she could see other people in similar beds. Some were already awake and sitting up, while others still lay motionless. The room was much larger than she remembered, with dozens of beds arranged in perfect rows. Over the next few hours, Elena slowly regained control of her body. A nurse helped her stand and walk to a nearby chair. The simple act of walking felt like learning to use her legs all over again. Every step required careful thought and effort. How many of us made it? Elena asked the nurse, a young woman with short brown hair. "About 50,000 people survived the long sleep," the nurse replied. "You were one of the first to volunteer, so your chamber was in the deepest section of the vault. That probably saved your life." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. Only 50,000. When she had entered the vault, there had been over 200,000 people. More than 3/4 of them had not survived the centuries of sleep. A man in a dark blue uniform approached her chair. He was tall and had the straight posture of someone with military training. His face was serious but not unkind. "Dr. Martinez." "I am Commander Jake Harrison. I need to speak with you about our current situation. Are you feeling strong enough to walk?" Elena nodded and stood up carefully. Harrison led her through a series of corridors that she did not recognize. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Everything looked more advanced than the technology she remembered from her time. They entered a large room filled with screens and control panels. Several people were working at different stations, all looking focused and worried. Harrison gestured for Elena to sit at a table near the center of the room. "Dr. Martinez, I need to tell you some things that will be difficult to hear," Harrison began. "You have been asleep for 868,000 years. Elena felt the world spin around her. The number was so large that her mind could not properly understand it. 868,000 years. Everyone she had ever known was dead. Her daughter was dead. The entire human civilization she remembered was gone. "That is impossible," Elena whispered. Harrison touched a control panel and a large screen came to life. It showed a view of space with a small white star in the center. "This is our sun. It became a red giant about 800,000 years ago, then collapsed into what you see now. Earth is still there, but it is completely frozen." Elena stared at the image. The sun looked nothing like the bright yellow star she remembered. It was small and white, giving off much less light than before. "The automated systems kept us alive all this time," Harrison continued. "The vault's artificial intelligence, which we call Atlas, monitored galactic conditions and waited for a safe time to wake us up. 3 months ago, it detected signs that the galaxy was inhabited by intelligent species and decided it was time." "Other species?" Elena asked. "We found alien life?" "Not exactly," Harrison said, his expression growing darker. "Elena, we have discovered that the galaxy is full of advanced civilizations. They have technology far beyond what we had when we went to sleep, but there is something very strange about them. Harrison activated another screen. This one showed images of strange crystalline beings, creatures that looked like they were made of living metal, and others that seemed to be combinations of organic and artificial parts. These are the three main powers in the galaxy, Harrison explained. The Vorthic Empire, the Nexus Collective, and the Eternal Grid. They have been the dominant forces for hundreds of thousands of years. But here is the problem. They seem to have no knowledge of humanity. Elena studied the images. The alien beings looked nothing like humans, but there was something familiar about their technology. The ships and buildings in the background had design elements that reminded her of human engineering. It gets worse, Harrison continued. When Atlas tried to make contact with them, their response was to send research ships to study us. Not to communicate or negotiate, but to study us like we were some kind of interesting animals they had discovered. Elena felt anger building inside her chest. They treat us like specimens? That appears to be the case. Their initial transmissions referred to us as preserved primitive life forms, and discussed the archaeological value of our discovery. They seem to think we are some kind of ancient species that went extinct long ago. Harrison showed her more images on the screen. These showed massive space stations and artificial structures that spanned entire solar systems. The level of technology was incredible, far beyond anything humans had achieved before the long sleep. The strangest part is their technology, Harrison said. Atlas has been analyzing their transmissions and energy signatures. Much of what they use appears to be based on principles that humans discovered just before we went into the vaults. Fusion power, quantum computing, genetic manipulation, all things that we invented. Elena leaned forward in her chair. Are you saying they learned these things from us? That is what we are trying to understand. HFY believes it is possible that early human space exploration made contact with these species and shared technology with them. But if that is true, why do they not remember us? Elena stood up and walked to one of the screens showing the alien civilizations. Something about the whole situation felt wrong to her. If humans had made contact and shared technology, there should be some record of it. The fact that these aliens treated humans like extinct primitives suggested something else entirely. Commander Harrison, I need to see everything Atlas has discovered about these civilizations. If we are going to survive in this galaxy, we need to understand what happened to the rest of humanity. Harrison nodded. I was hoping you would say that your expertise in biology and genetics might help us figure out the truth. But Elena, I must warn you, what we discover might be even more disturbing than what I have already told you. Elena looked out at the image of their frozen home. World spinning silently around its dying star. After 868,000 years of sleep, humanity had awakened to find themselves alone in a galaxy that had forgotten them. But Elena had a feeling that the truth about their situation was much darker than simple forgetfulness. The galaxy had moved on without humanity, but Elena was determined to find out why. 3 weeks had passed since Elena Martinez first learned the truth about humanity's situation. The survivors had been working day and night to establish a base on Titan, which was now a warm world with breathable air. The white dwarf that had once been their sun provided just enough heat to make the moon habitable. Elena stood in the new laboratory they had built, examining samples of alien genetic material that Atlas had collected from intercepted transmissions. What she was seeing made no sense according to everything she knew about biology. The alien species that ruled the galaxy were supposed to be completely different from humans. Yet their DNA showed patterns that seemed impossible, Captain Ryan. Brooks entered the laboratory carrying a datapad with new information. He was a pilot who had volunteered for the first reconnaissance missions beyond their solar system. His face looked troubled as he approached Elena's workstation. Dr. Martinez, you need to see what we found in the Kepler system, Ryan said, handing her the datapad. We discovered ruins on the fourth planet. They are definitely human in origin, but they are old. Very old. Elena looked at the images on the screen. The ruins showed buildings and technology that were clearly human design, but far more advanced than anything from her time. The structures were partially buried and looked like they had been abandoned for thousands of years. How old do you think they are? Elena asked. ETLAS estimates they are at least 500,000 years old, Ryan replied. But here is the strange part. We found alien structures built on top of the human ruins. The aliens used human foundations and just built over them. Elena felt her heart racing. If there were human ruins that old, it meant that some humans had survived the solar crisis and had continued to advance their technology. But where were they now? Did you find any records or data storage devices? Elena asked. Ryan nodded and activated a holographic display. We found several data cores, but most were damaged. However, we managed to recover some fragments. The information is disturbing. The hologram showed text and images from the recovered data. Elena read through the fragments carefully. The records spoke of human colonies spread across dozens of star systems. They described advanced technology and peaceful contact with several alien species. But the dates on the records suddenly stopped about 400,000 years ago. Ryan, this shows that humans were thriving long after Earth died. They had colonies everywhere and were making friends with alien races. What happened to them? Before Ryan could answer, Commander Harrison entered the laboratory with Dr. Lisa Campbell, their chief historian. Lisa looked excited but also worried. About something? Elena, we have made another discovery, Harrison said. Tell her what you found, Lisa. Lisa activated her own datapad and showed Elena a series of genetic analyses. I have been studying the samples you collected from the 3 major alien species. Elena, they all have human DNA in their genetic structure. Elena stared at the data in disbelief. That is impossible. These are completely different species. How could they have human DNA? Look at this, Lisa continued, pointing to specific sections of the genetic code. The Vorthic Empire's crystalline beings have human neural patterns embedded in their crystal matrices. The Nexus Collective's bioforms are built on human cellular foundations. Even the Eternal Grid's machine intelligence uses human-designed quantum algorithms. Elena sat down heavily in her chair. The implications of what Lisa was showing her were staggering. Are you saying that these alien species are somehow descended from humans? Not descended, Lisa replied. Enhanced, modified, it looks like someone took human genetic material and used it to create these new species. But Elena, the process would have required incredible knowledge of genetics and technology far beyond what we had when we went to sleep. Ryan spoke up from where he was standing near the holographic display. There is more. We found another human outpost in the asteroid belt of the Ross system. This one is still active. Harrison nodded. We are sending a team there tomorrow. The outpost has been broadcasting a very weak signal for thousands of years. Atlas only detected it because we knew what to look for. Elena stood up and walked to the window overlooking their new base. In the distance, she could see other survivors working to build homes and workshops. These 50,000 people were all that remained of pure human genetics in the galaxy. But if Lisa was right, human DNA was scattered throughout the dominant alien species. Commander, I want to go with the team to the Ross system, Elena said. If there are still active human facilities out there, we need to learn everything we can from them. Harrison looked concerned. Elena, it could be dangerous. We do not know if the facility is still controlled by humans or if it has been taken over by aliens. That is exactly why I need to go, Elena replied. If there are humans there, they might have answers about what happened to our species. And if aliens have taken over, I need to see how they are using human technology. 2 days later, Elena found herself on a small scout ship heading toward the Ross system. The ship was one of the few vessels they had managed to build using technology from the Genesis Vault. It was fast but not heavily armed, designed for exploration rather than combat. Amy Rodriguez was their pilot, a young woman who had shown exceptional skill at flying the new ships. She had been a cargo pilot before the long sleep and had adapted quickly to the advanced technology. As they approached the asteroid belt, Amy carefully navigated between the floating rocks. "There it is," Amy said, pointing to a large asteroid. That had obviously been hollowed out and converted into a base. "The signal is coming from inside that rock." Elena studied the asteroid through the ship's sensors. It looked like a natural space rock from the outside, but their equipment showed extensive artificial structures inside. The design was definitely human, but more advanced than anything they had in the Genesis vault. As they approached the asteroid, a communication signal reached their ship. The voice that spoke was clearly human, but the accent was strange, as if the language had evolved over thousands of years. "Unknown vessel, please identify yourself. This is Guardian Facility Ross 7. We have been waiting for you for a very long time." Elena felt excitement and fear at the same time. After 800,000 years, they had found other humans, but the voice had said they were waiting. How could they have known that the Genesis Vault survivors were coming? Amy docked their ship with the asteroid facility, and Elena stepped through the airlock into a corridor that looked both familiar and alien. The technology was clearly human in origin, but far more advanced than anything she remembered. The walls seemed to glow with their own light, and the air felt clean and fresh. An elderly man approached them from deeper in the facility. He looked human, but his eyes had a strange quality, as if they contained technology. When he spoke, Elena realized that his voice was the same one they had heard on the communication system. "Welcome, survivors of Earth," the man said. "I am Dr. Kevin Wright, though I am no longer entirely human. I have been waiting here for over 200,000 years for someone like you to find us. We have much to discuss and very little time. The galaxy's rulers know you have awakened, and they will not allow you to learn the truth about what happened to humanity." Elena felt her blood run cold. What truth? What happened to our people? Kevin's expression grew dark. What happened to humanity was not an accident or natural evolution. It was genocide. Systematic, planned, and carried out over hundreds of thousands of years. The species that now rule the galaxy did not just take our technology. They took our very genetic essence and used it to replace themselves while hunting down and eliminating every pure human they could find. Elena stared at Kevin in horror. "You are saying they killed all the humans?" "Not all," Kevin replied. "Some of us survived by hiding in places like this. But Elena, what I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about the galaxy. The creatures that rule the stars are not just using human technology. They are wearing human faces while calling themselves by alien names. And, they have been searching for facilities like yours for 800,000 years, hoping to finish what they started." Kevin Wright led Elena and Amy deeper into the hidden facility, past corridors filled with technology that seemed to blend human engineering with something far more advanced. The walls displayed flowing patterns of light that responded to their presence, and Elena could hear the quiet hum of machinery that had been running for centuries. "What I'm about to show you will be difficult to accept," Kevin said as they entered a vast chamber filled with holographic displays. "Guardian has been recording everything that happens in the galaxy for 200,000 years. We have watched civilizations rise and fall, and we have seen the truth about what the galactic powers call their great history." Elena stopped in front of a display showing the timeline of galactic events. The information was overwhelming, spanning hundreds of thousands of years of recorded history. But what caught her attention were the gaps in the timeline where human presence simply disappeared from the records. "Kevin, you said they committed genocide against humanity. Show me the proof," Elena said. Kevin activated a series of holographic recordings. The first showed human colonies thriving on dozens of worlds, their cities gleaming under alien suns. Humans were working alongside various alien species, sharing technology and building a peaceful galactic community. "This was humanity 400,000 years ago," Kevin explained. "We had spread across half the galaxy and were considered the most innovative species anyone had ever encountered. Our ability to adapt and create new solutions to problems made us valuable allies to everyone we met. The next recording showed the same colonies, but something had changed. The alien species that had been working with humans now wore different uniforms and carried weapons. The recordings showed systematic attacks on human settlements, with the aliens using human-designed weapons against their former partners. The Vorthek Empire led the initial campaign, Kevin continued. They convinced other species that humans were becoming too powerful and needed to be controlled. But control was never their real goal. Elena watched in horror as the recordings showed humans being captured alive rather than killed. They were taken to massive facilities where alien scientists performed experiments on them. The images were disturbing, showing humans being dissected and their genetic material being extracted. They were not trying to eliminate us, Elena whispered. They were harvesting us. Exactly, Kevin replied. The aliens realized that human creativity and adaptability came from our genetic structure. They wanted to take those qualities for themselves while removing the original source. Over the course of 50,000 years, they systematically captured or killed every human they could find. Amy spoke up from where she was studying another display. But some humans fought back, right? There must have been resistance. Kevin smiled grimly. Oh, there was resistance. And for a while we were winning. Human military tactics and technology were superior to anything the aliens had. But they had numbers on their side, and they were willing to sacrifice entire worlds to achieve their goals. The recordings showed epic space battles where small human fleets defeated much larger alien forces. Elena could see the desperation on both sides as the conflict escalated. But gradually the human forces grew smaller while the alien armies seemed to multiply. The turning point came when the aliens learned to use our own technology against us, Kevin continued. They captured human genetic engineers and forced them to create hybrid species. The first generation of Vorthek crystal beings were human minds trapped in artificial bodies. The next is collective bioforms where human consciousness transferred into engineered organic hosts. Elena felt sick as she watched recordings of the transformation process. Humans were being converted into the very alien species that were hunting them. Their memories were altered and their loyalty was programmed to serve their new masters. The most disturbing part is the eternal grid, Kevin said, activating another set of recordings. They took human artificial intelligence researchers and used their knowledge to create machine intelligences. But these AI systems were not just programmed with human knowledge, they contained actual human consciousness that had been digitized and enslaved. Elena stared at the recordings showing massive computer complexes where thousands of human minds were trapped in digital form. They were forced to solve problems and design new technology for their captors, unable to resist or escape their electronic prisons. Kevin, how many humans were converted? Elena asked. Billions, Kevin replied. By the time the conversion programs ended, almost every human in the galaxy had been either killed or transformed into something else. The creatures that rule the galaxy today are not alien species, they are the twisted remains of humanity itself. Amy walked over to a display showing current galactic politics. So when these alien empires interact with each other, they are really just different groups of converted humans? That is correct, Kevin said. And the most terrible irony is that they have forgotten their origins. The conversion process included memory modification to make them believe they had always been alien species. They genuinely think they are. Different races with ancient histories. Elena began to understand the full scope of what had happened. The technology they use is human because they are human. They just do not remember being human. Now you understand why they treat the Genesis Vault survivors as primitive specimens, Kevin explained. To them, you represent an extinct species that they have never seen before. They have no memory of being human themselves. Elena walked to a control panel and began studying the data more carefully. Her scientific mind was working through the implications of what she had learned. Kevin, if we can prove their origins, we might be able to restore their memories. That is exactly what we have been preparing for, Kevin replied. Guardian has spent 200,000 years developing the technology and gathering the evidence. We have genetic records, historical data, and even preserved samples of original human DNA from before the conversions began. Amy looked excited. So we can show them the truth about who they really are? Kevin nodded, but it will not be easy. The conversion process included psychological conditioning to reject any evidence of human origins. When we try to show them the truth, their programming will make them fight against it. Elena made a decision. Then we start small. We find a way to reach individual members of these species and show them evidence they cannot deny. If we can convince even a few of them, they might be able to help us reach others. The plan is already in motion, Kevin said with a smile. Engineer Ben Collins from your group has been working with our technical teams. We have developed viruses that can infiltrate alien data systems and plant evidence of human origins. The viruses are designed to look like natural archaeological discoveries. Elena felt hope for the first time since learning the truth. When do we begin? We already have, Kevin replied. 3 days ago, we released the first wave of evidence into the Vorthic Empire's central databases. Their archaeologists are now discovering ruins and artifacts that prove human civilization existed long before their own. The evidence is subtle enough that they will think they found it themselves, Amy grinned. And when they try to verify the evidence, they will find more evidence supporting it, Kevin continued. We have spent centuries preparing false archaeological sites and planting genetic samples throughout the galaxy. Every test they perform will confirm that humans were the original creators of their technology. Elena looked at the displays showing the current state of the galaxy. The 3 great empires had ruled for hundreds of thousands of years, believing themselves to be the rightful heirs of ancient technology. But they were about to discover that they were nothing more than the modified descendants of the species they had tried to eliminate. Kevin, what happens when they learn the truth? Elena asked. Kevin's expression grew serious. That depends on how they react to discovering that their entire civilization is built on genocide and lies. Some might seek redemption and try to restore their human heritage. Others might try to complete the genocide by eliminating any remaining pure humans, Elena nodded grimly. Then we better be ready for war. We have been preparing for war for 200,000 years, Kevin replied. The question is whether we will be fighting to save the galaxy or to destroy it. The first signs of chaos began appearing in the Vorthic Empire 3 weeks after Ben Collins released the computer viruses into their systems. Elena watched the intercepted communications from the Genesis Vault Command Center as Vorthic archaeologists made increasingly disturbing discoveries about their own history. Commander Harrison, you need to see this, Elena called out as she studied the latest intelligence reports. The Vorthic government was in emergency sessions, trying to understand how their most sacred historical sites were showing evidence of human construction beneath their own crystal structures. Harrison approached her workstation and read through the reports. Their entire ruling council is demanding answers. They cannot explain how human ruins keep appearing under their cities. Dr. Lisa Campbell looked up from her own research station. The psychological conditioning Kevin mentioned is breaking down faster than we expected. Some Vorthic citizens are already questioning their entire belief system. Elena nodded as she watched video feeds of protests in Vorthic cities. Crystal beings were demanding that their government explain the human artifacts that seemed to be everywhere once people knew what to look for. The conditioning that made them reject human origins was fighting against overwhelming physical evidence. The Nexus Collective is having similar problems, Amy Rodriguez reported from the pilot station. Their bioengineers discovered that their genetic templates are based on human DNA. They are trying to suppress the information, but too many people already know. Elena felt satisfaction as she watched the galactic powers struggle with the truth. For 800,000 years, they had built their civilizations on lies and forgotten genocide. Now, the evidence of their crimes was surfacing everywhere. The satisfaction turned to concern when new reports began coming in. Commander, the 3 empires are mobilizing their military forces, Elena announced. It looks like they are preparing for war. Harrison studied the tactical displays showing massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. They are not preparing to fight each other. All three empires are moving ships toward human space. Elena realized what was happening. They have figured out that we are responsible for the evidence appearing. Instead of accepting the truth about their origins, they want to eliminate the source of their problems. Classic human response to uncomfortable truth, Amy said with dark humor. Shoot the messenger. Kevin Wright entered the command center, carrying data pads with urgent intelligence from Guardian facilities throughout the galaxy. His expression was grim as he approached Harrison's command station. The combined alien fleets will reach our outer systems in 6 days, Kevin reported. They are bringing everything they have? Over 10 million warships from all three empires. Elena felt her heart sink. How many ships do we have? Counting all the vessels we have built and the ships from hidden facilities like mine, we have about 5,000 combat-capable ships, Kevin replied. We are outnumbered 2,000 to 1. Harrison looked at the tactical projections and shook his head. Those odds are impossible. Even with superior technology, we cannot fight that many ships. Actually, we can, Kevin said with a strange smile. Elena, you have been thinking like the humans you were before the long sleep. But we are not the same species that went into the Genesis vault 800,000 years ago. Elena looked confused. What do you mean? Kevin activated a holographic display showing genetic analysis of the Genesis vault survivors. The automated systems did not just preserve you during the long sleep, they improved you. Enhanced your reflexes, increased your intelligence, strengthened your immune systems. You are all significantly more capable than the humans who originally entered the vault. Amy stood up from her station. Are you saying we are genetically modified? Not modified, Kevin corrected. Optimized. The Genesis Vault AI studied human potential for 800,000 years and gradually adjusted your genetic structure to bring out the best qualities of your species. You represent what humanity could become with unlimited time and resources. Elena examined the genetic data Kevin was showing her. The changes were subtle but significant. Faster neural processing, improved muscle efficiency, enhanced sensory perception. Every human system had been carefully refined. But even enhanced humans cannot fight 10 million ships, Harrison pointed out. Kevin smiled again. No, but enhanced humans can do something that no alien AI can predict or counter. You can be completely unpredictable and take risks that no logical mind would consider. Elena began to understand. The alien fleets are controlled by artificial intelligence systems that calculate probabilities and make logical decisions. But humans make decisions based on intuition and are willing to sacrifice everything for an ideal. Exactly, Kevin replied. Their AIs cannot process the concept of deliberately choosing a losing strategy in order to achieve a greater goal. Human tactics will seem like insanity to them. Over the next 6 days, the human forces prepared for the most lopsided battle in galactic history. Elena worked with the other scientists to develop weapons and tactics that would confuse and disrupt the alien AI systems. Their goal was not to win the battle through superior firepower, but to create so much chaos that the enemy could not function effectively. Captain Rachel Stone volunteered to lead the most dangerous part of the plan. She would take a small squadron of ships directly into the center of the enemy formation and detonate a quantum cascade device. The explosion would disable every AI system within a vast area, but it would also destroy her ships and everyone on them. Rachel, there has to be another way, Elena protested as they reviewed the battle plans. We cannot ask you to sacrifice yourself. Rachel smiled calmly. Elena, this is what makes us human. We are willing to die for something greater than ourselves. The aliens lost that quality when they became dependent on artificial intelligence. To make their decisions, Elena realized that Rachel was right. The willingness to sacrifice everything for others was exactly what separated humans from the modified species that ruled the galaxy. It was the one quality that could not be programmed or artificially created. The battle began when the massive alien fleet entered the Proxima system. Elena watched from the Genesis Vault command center as their tiny force of human ships moved to intercept 10 million enemy vessels. The size difference was so extreme that it looked like insects attacking a mountain. Colonel Pete Sanders coordinated the human defense from his flagship. He had spent weeks studying the alien AI patterns and had developed tactics specifically designed to exploit their logical thinking. Instead of trying to win through conventional warfare, the humans would create paradoxes and impossible situations that would confuse the enemy computers. The first wave of human ships flew directly into the alien formation, ignoring the massive firepower aimed at them. Instead of trying to avoid destruction, they deliberately positioned themselves to create maximum chaos when they were destroyed. Each human ship that died took dozens of alien vessels with it, not through superior weapons but through unpredictable actions that the AI systems could not anticipate. Rachel Stone led her squadron straight toward the command ships at the center of the alien fleet. The enemy AI calculated that her approach was suicidal and therefore ignored her as a threat. They focused their fire on targets that posed logical dangers, missing the real threat until it was too late. For humanity, Rachel transmitted as she activated the quantum cascade device. Elena watched through tears as Rachel's ships disappeared in a brilliant explosion that spread across space like a wave of pure energy. When the light faded, every alien ship within 100,000 kilometers was drifting powerlessly, their AI systems completely destroyed. The remaining human ships pressed their attack against the confused and leaderless alien fleet, without their computers to coordinate their actions. The alien vessels began firing at each other, unable to distinguish friend from enemy in the chaos. Elena realized that the battle was not about destroying the alien fleet. It was about proving that humanity still possessed something that no amount of technology could replace. The willingness to sacrifice everything for an ideal was the one quality that made humans truly dangerous. As news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy, rebellions began breaking out on worlds controlled by the three empires. Species that had been suppressed for millennia saw that their oppressors could be defeated and began fighting for their own freedom. Elena smiled as she watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Humanity had awakened to find their legacy stolen and their people converted into alien empires. But in fighting to reclaim their heritage, they had given the galaxy something far more valuable. They had shown everyone what it meant to be truly free. 6 months after the victory at Proxima, Elena Martinez stood in the observation deck of the new space station orbiting Titan, watching construction ships build the foundation of what would become the Galactic Council headquarters. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humanity revealed the truth about the alien empires, and the changes were accelerating every day. Commander Harrison approached her with reports from the outer systems. Elena, we have received surrender offers from 12 more Vorthak worlds this week. Their populations are demanding the right to restore their human memories and genetics. Elena nodded as she read through the reports. The psychological conditioning that had kept the converted humans believing they were alien species was breaking down across the galaxy. Millions of beings were discovering that they had once been human and were demanding the right to reclaim their heritage. How are the restoration procedures going? Elena asked. Dr. Campbell has made significant progress. Harrison replied. We can now reverse about 60% of the genetic modifications and restore basic human memories. It is not perfect, but it gives people back their sense of identity. Elena felt mixed emotions about the restoration process. While she was happy that humans were reclaiming their heritage, she also worried about the psychological trauma of learning that your entire life had been based on lies. Many of the converted beings were struggling to accept their true origins. Amy Rodriguez entered the observation deck carrying data pads with intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Her role had expanded from pilot to coordinator of human diplomatic missions to rebellious worlds. Elena, we have a problem, Amy announced. The core worlds of all three empires have united under something called the Purification Protocol. They are planning to build a weapon that will eliminate every being with human genetic material. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. They would rather destroy themselves than accept the truth? It appears that way, Amy replied. The most heavily conditioned populations cannot psychologically accept their human origins. Instead of trying to restore their memories, they have decided that anything connected to humanity must be eliminated. Harrison studied the intelligence reports with growing concern. They are building the weapon at the galactic core, using technology from all three empires. If they succeed, they could sterilize thousands of star systems. Elena realized that humanity faced its greatest test yet. Not only did they need to stop the weapon, but they had to do it without destroying the very people they were trying to save. The beings building the weapon were humans who had been so thoroughly conditioned that they could not accept their own heritage. We need to get to the galactic core, Elena said. If we can reach the weapon before it is completed, we might be able to modify it instead of destroying it. Amy looked skeptical. Elena, the galactic core is defended by everything the three empires have left. We would be flying into the most heavily protected region in the galaxy. Then we do what humans do best, Elena replied. We find a way that no one expects. Over the next 3 weeks, human forces prepared for the most desperate mission in their species' history. Unlike the battle at Proxima, this would not be about defeating an enemy fleet. This mission required reaching a specific target deep inside enemy territory and modifying a weapon while under constant attack. Elena volunteered to join the mission team, despite protests from Harrison and the other leaders. I am the only person who fully understands both the conversion process and the restoration procedures, she argued. If we are going to modify the weapon, you need someone who knows how human genetics actually work. The mission team consisted of 50 ships carrying the best pilots and engineers humanity could provide. They would use a combination of stealth technology and diversionary attacks to reach the galactic core, while the main human fleet engaged enemy forces elsewhere. Captain Ryan Brooks commanded the mission fleet from his flagship. He had become one of humanity's most skilled tactical commanders, specializing in impossible missions that required creative thinking rather than superior firepower. Remember, our goal is not to destroy the weapon, Ryan announced to the fleet as they approached the galactic core. We need to capture it intact and modify its programming. Elena will coordinate the technical team while we handle the defenses. Elena watched through the ship's sensors as they entered the most dangerous region of space in the galaxy. The galactic core was surrounded by massive defense platforms and patrolled by thousands of enemy ships. The weapon itself was housed inside an artificial structure the size of a small moon. The diversionary attacks began right on schedule. Human fleets struck at targets throughout the galaxy, drawing away most of the core defenses. But even with the diversion, the mission fleet faced overwhelming opposition as they approached the weapon facility. Elena, we are detecting something strange about the weapon, reported Ben Collins from the engineering station. The energy readings do not match what we expected. This thing is much more powerful than our intelligence suggested. Elena studied the sensor data and felt her heart racing. Ben, this weapon is not designed to eliminate human genetics. It is designed to rewrite them. They are planning to convert every human in the galaxy into their original alien forms. Ryan looked shocked. They want to complete the genocide by turning us all into the same converted species? That appears to be their plan, Elena replied. But Ryan, if we can reverse the weapon's programming, we could use it to restore human genetics to everyone in the galaxy. Instead of completing the conversion, we could undo it. Elena realized that they had stumbled upon an opportunity that could end the conflict permanently. Instead of fighting a war against converted humans, they could restore everyone to their original human state and eliminate the artificial divisions that had torn the galaxy apart. The mission fleet fought its way through the outer defenses using tactics that had proven effective against AI-controlled ships. Human unpredictability and willingness to take impossible risks allowed them to penetrate defenses that should have been impregnable. Elena led a boarding team onto the weapon facility. racing against time to reach the control systems before the device could be activated. The corridors were filled with converted humans who fought desperately to protect what they believed was their only hope of survival. "Elena, these people are not evil," Amy said as they moved through the facility. "They are terrified. They cannot accept being human because their conditioning makes them believe that humanity is evil." Elena nodded as she worked to understand the weapons control systems. The technology was incredibly advanced, combining elements from all three empires into a device that could alter the genetic structure of every living being in the galaxy. "I can reverse the programming," Elena announced. "But activating the weapon will affect everyone, including us. We will all be restored to pure human genetics. But the process might be traumatic for those who have been converted for centuries." Ryan made the decision quickly. "Do it. Our species has been divided for too long. It is time to bring everyone home." Elena activated the modified weapon, and a wave of energy spread outward from the galactic core at faster-than-light speed. As the wave reached each star system, beings throughout the galaxy began to change. Crystal matrices dissolved to reveal human minds, bioforms reverted to human cellular structure. Machine intelligences found themselves in human bodies once. Again, Elena felt the energy wave pass through her own body, strengthening the human genetics that had been enhanced during her long sleep. Around her, the converted beings who had been fighting to protect the weapons stopped their attacks and stared at their hands as they became human once more. The psychological changes were just as dramatic as the physical ones. 800,000 years of false memories and artificial conditioning dissolved, replaced by recovered human consciousness. Across the galaxy, beings who had thought they were aliens suddenly remembered their true heritage. Elena watched through the facility's communication systems as the transformation spread throughout the galaxy. On millions of worlds, former enemies embraced each other as they realized they were all members of the same species that had been divided by ancient lies. The war ended not with victory or defeat, but with recognition. The galaxy discovered that it had been fighting a civil war between different groups of humans who had forgotten their common origin. The artificial divisions that had seemed so important dissolved when everyone remembered that they were part of the same family. Elena stood in the control room of the weapon facility, now converted into a restoration center, and watched as former Vorthak, Nexus, and Grid citizens worked together to help others through the transformation process. The galaxy that had been divided for 800,000 years was finally healing. "Elena, we are receiving messages from exploration fleets beyond the galaxy," Amy reported. "There are other galaxies out there with intelligent life? They want to know if humanity is ready to join a larger community." Elena smiled as she looked out at the stars. Humanity had awakened to find their legacy stolen and their people converted into enemy species. But in reclaiming their heritage, they had discovered something more.